Hey guys, it's Ryan. Happy Friday. What is it, the 17th? My gosh, it's almost Thanksgiving. Well, happy Friday to all. Today we're going to be talking about what makes a good account executive. I'm going to give you guys a few different tips, more on specifically cybersecurity, but you can use this in sales and a lot of different areas of life. And I think you guys are in for a big treat today because I'm going to talk about a few things. I didn't want to give you guys general advice. I've been watching a few other, I keep some videos on in the background as well, and there's a lot of videos where it's just like no duh advice, very general advice. I wanted to give you guys some specific stuff that have helped me, that I think are some keys to success that I've seen from other people who are in my network and friends and so forth, and we talk about this stuff. So we're gonna be talking about this. This might, I don't know, it might be 10, 20-minute video depending on time, but I really wanted to give you guys more in-depth, and so for people who follow the channel, you guys are in for a treat. I think we're gonna talk about a few things you haven't thought of before. Special shout out, by the way, to Higher Levels, okay? I was watching an interview they did with this individual who went through the program, and I've partnered with Higher Levels, by the way. It's a tech sales boot camp. I know Eric and Chris, personally. We've only spoken like a bunch of Zoom calls together. I haven't met them yet, but I got to visit them in Texas. And they are pumping out, people are getting jobs almost every single day. Yesterday's interview, which I recommend checking out, this guy was a personal trainer, went through 8 weeks of their course, and then got a job at Snowflake, which is one of the hardest companies to break into, and he did it with no experience. Major shout out to them. Definitely recommend the course. I do now the consulting calls. Once a week we go over your resume, we go over interview process, prep, negotiation, everything. And for those people who want, you can look in the description below. Check out the course. If you use my coupon code, obviously you get 10% off, and I will gift you a free one-on-one consulting session, okay? Free 60 minutes. There might be a few other codes out there, but you're not gonna get that. So I will dedicate 60 minutes of my time to helping you in any way, shape, or form. You can choose to use it or not use it, or if you have an interview, I really recommend it when you have an interview coming up, because that's when I can do a mock interview and really prep you. So that's there on the table. All right, let's get into the video. I know. Enough of that stuff. All right, let's talk about one big key point, okay? And I think that a lot of people don't realize that with account executives, you are usually a leader in the team. Number one thing, the speed of the leader is the speed of the group. This is very important when you have you have to believe in your leadership. Your leadership has to have some experience usually in the space, or at least a level of competency, ethics, integrity to be able to get the job done. They have to be resourceful. They have to have a sense of urgency without feeling desperate. This is so you want to make sure when you're joining a company, there's that leadership type, but also when you go into it, you have to believe in yourself that you can become a leader. Okay, and you start enacting this. Who do you lead? If there's nobody to lead, you lead yourself first. So the speed of the leader is the speed of the group. So whenever you have that sense of urgency, your people that follow you, your SDRs, your BDRs, are gonna match the same pace, okay? What they see you do, they're gonna do as well, they're gonna copy, which is why in a lot of companies, it's tougher if you come into the company kind of mid-rank or higher rank, and the people below you have not seen what you can do, or they see that you're not as good or something. They lose respect very fast. So you have to make sure that you keep a certain tempo, you keep positive, you know the right times to, me and my wife are watching this one show. It's not Navy SEALs, I think it's Special Forces, where it's like the leadership really knows when to pat them on the back or kick them in the ass. And you kind of got to know the difference when it comes to people. You definitely want to be positive, but you got to know when to hey, I need you to do this, and be stern about it. So a big thing about being an account executive is develop your leadership qualities, your leadership traits in yourself first, and set the stage, because that's when you get promoted, things start opening up. So be a leader first. Number two, okay, a lot of people don't talk about choosing your team. When I look at people that I'm gonna put on my team, I look for a few different traits, okay? Number one, they have to obviously get the job done. They have to be able to do the job. The second thing is that there has to be a company culture fit. They have to be able to mesh well with my energy, my kind of pod culture, as well as the company culture as a whole. I have to look at things that also they have natural talent in. What do they naturally gravitate towards? I have people who have worked under me. Some people, they weren't great salespeople. They weren't great, they weren't like, I could be a lot of high energy. They weren't like these high energy individuals, but they were really good at operations. They could know the metrics like nobody. They could really do analysis and attention to detail. Ooh, that's really good. So you want to have a mix on your team of great personalities that strengthens it as a whole. It synergizes well. You don't want everybody to be the exact same type of persona, but having said that, you definitely want to make sure that they definitely have a vibe of positivity throughout the entire process, like healthy optimism. So I'm not saying be like, they're, they don't look at the bad at all, but there has to be a forward momentum culture in your group, okay? So you need to know whenever you're looking at it, can they get the job done? Are they going to be meshed well? What is their teachability? On a scale of 1 to 10, how teachable are they? How willingness to learn, how willingness to adapt and change? I never hire people that are kind of know-it-alls because they're not going to fit in well. We want to have people that are developing themselves and their career as well as can be innovative. So if you kind of come in with the air that hey, I already know it all, honestly, I talked to one candidate the other day. His vibe was totally like, knows his stuff. It was a little like, well, why hire you? You already know everything. And it's not like, we're not hiring you for a certain level of conditioning. I don't know the right word, but you know what I mean. It's basically he thought he was too cool for school. He thought he was too intelligent. He thought he was too smart for what we had to offer. Well then, okay, we're not gonna hire you. We're looking for people that want to learn, want to grow, but have enough confidence to get the job done, okay? So that's the type of team that you wanna be building around you. Here's an interesting, number 3, is called the cup lid theory. Cup lid theory. And I don't know if that's what it's called. A guy who I used to work with who did very, very well at sales said this. Funny enough, he was younger than me at the time, and he was my boss. He was an amazing salesperson. I don't know how. Every time he came back, he had sale after sale after sale. And this is when I was this is a while ago now, but it was a little bit more on the door-to-door selling, or we were going to like Best Buys and Fry's Electronics, and we were selling different electronic services. This is 10 years ago now. And he talked about that you have to be a 10 in your organization. If you're a 10 in your organization, so think of like scale of 1 to 10. If you're a 10 in your organization, the people that are going to follow you are going to be 10s, 9s, and 8s. If you're a 5, if you're half-assing it, you're going to attract, 5 4s, 3s, or maybe 6 5 4s. So you have to be a 10, that type of personality, like, hey, how can I give more? How can I deliver more? How can I be the best version of myself and be the leader that my team needs? Because it's true, he was a 10 all the time, and he attracted other 9s and 8s, but he also attracted occasionally some 11s. There's one guy in particular that just was his organization, his number 2 guy that just crushed it in sales. It was pretty amazing to watch. The guy 10 years ago was taking over 200K. I don't even know what that would be in today's money, but yeah, he was doing really well. So make sure that you're basically putting on that vibe when you wake up, when you go to bed. Think about it. Like, how can I kind of excel a little bit more? What did I do right? What can I get better at? What did I do wrong? What can we discard that's not serving us? So think about that. All right, so next things. Number 4. I'm gonna get into also the demo stuff because I know some people are probably like, well, where's the account management stuff? I'm gonna get into that. I'm giving you some mindset stuff first. But one of the keys to sales and honestly to making money is your Neuro-Associations. A lot of people have a lot of limiting beliefs. They have things that are holding them back. Fear of rejection, for example. Fear of either starting a project, and enduring a project, or bringing it to completion. And in some in circles it's called energy, other ones it's called your relationship with money, other ones it's called your limiting beliefs. There's actually 7 pillars of beliefs, believe it or not. But the simplest method is to start looking at your self-image. Okay, you gotta start looking at your self-image, how you see yourself and how others perceive you. And there's a lot of ways to do it. Easiest way I can give you is to start reading the book Think and Grow Rich. And they talk about the art of autosuggestion as well as how to build confidence. But you need to start looking how you see yourself and really have that, quiet your mind, think about words that you associate with yourself, or how do you think other people perceive you? How do you think they do perceive you versus how do you want them to perceive you? Okay? So something to consider. All right, now let's get actually into the account executive stuff. So you should, on your dashboard every morning, you should be understanding the numbers, okay? To make it very, very simple, you can look at like 10 to 15 different numbers. I have graphs posted on my wall looking at, my personal finances as well as kind of like the sales finances metrics. But you want to keep it simple. Keep it very, very, very simple. Focus on 2 to 3 metrics only. Easiest ones that you can do is number one, the total revenue or total billings or net income from the sales. And then the second thing is the number of actually demos. For me, I think the number of quality demonstrations or presentations is something you should measure. You shouldn't be you can measure this either on a daily, weekly, or monthly, quarterly. I personally would recommend weekly. Focus on the amount of earnings, billings, or money coming in from all your sales on a monthly basis. And then maybe on a weekly, you can look at either total sales or you can look at the number of meetings that you're having. Those would be 3 core metrics that I would look at. And you want to keep it simple because what you focus on is actually what keeps, expanding. And if you have too many numbers, it's analysis paralysis, it causes confusion. Keep it to 2 to 3 simple metrics. So the ones that I would do, total income, total billings or earnings, the amount of orders you're doing or sales, and then the total actual meetings you're doing or demos on a weekly basis. And you measure this, you calculate this. You put this on your wall, you look at it physically, and you do it physically, okay? You can have it on a computer, that's fine. I would recommend having it so you see it every day. It's something you focus on. And you guys know me, I'm really into energy and visualization. Visualize it for about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes every day. Look at the bar going up, okay? Very, very key. When you start out as an account executive, you need to understand also what your SDRs and BDRs are going through. And this is from Brian Tracy, where it's called the 100 call test. You want to make sure that you also, if your BDRs are doing cold calls, you should also do cold calls, at least 100 of them. Ideally, you were a BDR and then you moved into an account executive. But if you weren't, if you became an account executive, do at least 100 cold calls. You'll get a sale from 100. And you'll also understand what your BDRs are going through, what your SDRs are going through, the common objections they're understanding. You want to write down every single common objection that comes by, okay? You write them all down, especially over this period of a month. You write them all down and you analyze, okay, 80% of the time I'm getting these top 10 objections. And then next time around, you now have an answer. You have something that you can emphasize, or ideally in your presentation, you now put that in your presentation so the objection doesn't come later. Okay, so that's ideal. When I do interviews, I still do account executive as well as recruiting. When I do recruiting, a lot of people, they always say I have no questions at the end because I've heard the same objections so many times. I usually answer them all in my introduction. So make sure you're writing down your objections. You're crafting that. 80% of the time, it's going to be the same objections. If you get a new one, you write it down, and you think about how, next time if I get that question, because it probably will happen, what can I answer with? So very, very key. All right, so now let's actually get into other things. So there's usually, depending on each company, but every single one has a different sales cycle, has a different sales cadence, a tempo, the amount of follow-ups. You want to make sure that you're measuring the amount of follow-ups it takes to close a deal. Some companies, it's 1. That's awesome. I mean, that would be awesome. On average, for a lot of companies, it's the 3rd or 4th follow-up. Sometimes it's 7. I've seen that one. But there's an old saying, the fortune is in the follow-up. Fortune is in the follow-up. So make sure you're constantly following up with people, okay?